Hey everybody, what's up? It's Chase. Welcome to another episode of the Chase Jarvis live show here on Creative Live. This is the show where I sit down with amazing humans. I unpack their brain with the goal of helping you live your dreams in career, hobby, and life. My guest today on the show is the one and only inimitable Mel Robbins. Mel is one of the leading voices in personal development and transformation. She's an international bestseller. She's got 4 number 1 Audible Book of the Year. She has just come out with the most recent book called The High Five Habit, which is a mechanism for transforming your life. Instant New York Times bestseller. Her groundbreaking work on behavior change has been translated into 36 languages. She has done an incredible course on Creative Live that has 155,000 students in it called How to Break the Habit of Self-Doubt and Build Real Confidence. This episode is incredible. One of my favorites of the past 2 years. A couple things that we cover. A morning routine that moves you out of anxiety and into a mode where you can be your most creative, productive, and authentic self. A mantra that is backed by science to get you out of that duress moment and into a calm, neuroregulated state. A set of philosophies and practices for loving yourself, not in this sort of spa day or day drinking sort of way, but a true way of connecting with who you are at your core. And I think something important, a prescription for helping others in your life do the same and to do so in a constructive and positive framework. So incredible episode. I'm going to get out of the way and let you enjoy yours truly in conversation with the one and only Mel Robbins. Enjoy the show. It brings me great pleasure to welcome Mel Robbins to the show. Mel, welcome back.
I love the welcome back.
Isn't that the best?
It is the best. And I cannot believe that it's been almost 4 years since we've seen each other. So thank you for welcoming me back.
Oh, I'm very happy to do it. And I will take the role for a moment here of aspiring fan, having watched what you've done over the past 4 years from the class that you made 4 years ago in Creative Live, which is still, I just looked at it, has 155,200 students in it, called How to Break the Habit of Self-Doubt and Build Real Confidence with Mel Robbins. You've had 2, massive successful books, New York Times bestseller most recently, with the High Five Habit. Before that, the 5-second rule, which I used to get out of bed this morning, not lying, honest. And so we got a lot of ground to cover. But before we do all that, here we are. We are hopefully emerging from a pandemic where the people that pay attention to me and my show, but more importantly, you and all of your incredible activities, from speaking to building courses to having a daytime television show, what is the word on the street? What are you hearing from the people who are in your community? And is it time for us to be hopeful, to be doubtful? Should we be scared? Should we be energized? What's the word on the street in the Mel Robbins community?
Well, I'm going to answer this 2 ways. I personally believe that people are feeling more beaten down, more discouraged, and I think more distracted and uncertain than they're letting on. And the reason why is human beings are not designed to sustain this level of intense stress and uncertainty. And so, regardless of what's going on in terms of your mindset, which I'll talk about in a minute in terms of why I think this is actually a really great time to be full of hope and optimism and energy and innovation, incredible moment for creativity. I want to talk about the reality of where you're at. And that is that we're not designed to live this sustained level of uncertainty. Your nervous system is completely fried. And that if you don't listen intently to the things that we will talk about in terms of how you can settle your nervous system and get yourself back into a state of feeling like you're in control, you're comfortable in your body, you're not living on edge and full of anxiety every day as the default state, you're not going to be able to reach what I want you to reach, which is intense optimism, intense creativity. This is the moment, in my opinion, to be moving. This is the moment to be excited and energized. When everybody around you goes into survival mode, this is when you need creativity more than ever. And it's also moments of extraordinary growth and innovation, and you got a chance to pull way ahead of where you've been and what other people are doing, because so many people are stuck in survival mode right now. So I answered it in two very contradictory ways, which is based on your body state. You're probably more stuck and frazzled than you realize, which is why you find it hard to focus right now. But based on where we're at, I think this is an incredible moment of opportunity.
All right, we're going to peel this onion and we're going to peel it in two halves. Okay?
Okay.
We're going to peel this onion in two different ways. And the left half is this idea that our neurology is fried. My wife, Kate, is a meditation and mindfulness teacher. She works on awareness, and she has helped me understand my own neurological journey and hers, which is very different. But they both have, at different times in our lives, been completely ground to pieces. And if you look at that as history of what was possible or tolerable, and now over the last 2 years, as you outline, throw in a pandemic, the pandemic has catastrophic economic challenges for largely small businesses, creators, and entrepreneurs, which is the audience of the show and most of the people you talk about. When I think about the history of what we went through, what we're going through now, and the fact that where I am with the resources versus so many out there in the world, it's, of course, everyone is freaked out and fried and burnt out and struggling to talk about it. We don't have the words, the vocabulary, the courage, the vulnerability. If, in fact, as you say, this is peak of this shit sandwich that we've been eating,
Mm-hmm.
what's the path out?
So the path out, this is going to sound like crazy simplistic, but one of the things that I learned in researching the book, The High Five Habit, which was freaking news to me, Chase. But once you have somebody unpack it, you're like, oh shit. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Um, it is research from a woman who was at UCLA for a long time, one of the leading neuroscientists in the world. She studies the brain and what it takes for the brain to learn, to change, to create. And one of the things that she discovered is the connection between your nervous system and your brain's ability to function as it's designed. And to just really dumb it down, mostly for myself, this is how I've boiled down what she talks about. So, your nervous system trumps your brain. And when you are in a state of stress or anxiety or uncertainty, and your nervous system gets locked into a fight or flight response, which is what everybody is in. There's no way, I mean, your wife may not be there because she is a expert in meditation, she's a practitioner, so she has daily practices that help her flip off what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, anxiety, on edge. Oh, fuck, how am I paying the bills? What's happening in politics? Gas prices are now crazy. When are we getting off Zoom? Are the kids going back to school? Do I have to wear a mask? Do I need a booster? Like all of that shit that you're processing that makes your nervous system fire up like alarm, alarm, alarm. That's your sympathetic nervous system. If you don't switch that sucker off and flip on the other nervous system, you got two nervous systems, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is your resting nervous system. It's your grounded, calm. It's the nervous system that's in play when you're in flow, being creative. It's what it feels like when you're grounded in your body and you're okay and you feel okay. And so, what I learned from Dr. Judith Willis is that when your sympathetic fight or flight, oh fuck, nervous system is running the show, your brain doesn't work properly because the alarm system takes over. And I can explain this using a very simple example. If all of a sudden the alarms went off in the studio that you're in and you smelled smoke, would you be able to solve a math problem? No,
No.
of course
I'm
not.
out. I'm
You're
out.
out. Well, that's basically what it's been like for the last 2 years. The fire alarms are going off and your body, your nose smells smoke. And so your nervous system flips on an alarm. The reason why it's so hard to focus, the reason why you're exhausted by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the reason why you feel like you're one more thing away from checking yourself in and needing help is because your nervous system is just fried and it's impacting your ability to think clearly. And so there's a simple trick that you can use. And I know you've talked about the vagus nerve a lot on your show.
Mhm.
It's a really important thing to understand. It's a treasure inside your body. The vagus nerve is a nerve that runs all the way from, your seat through every major organ, your vocal cords, all the way up to the top of your head. And the vagus nerve is the on off switch between your oh shit nervous system and your I got this nervous system. And so a simple thing that you can do, and I want everybody to do this at the beginning of their day. And the reason why I want you to do it at the beginning of your day is because I guarantee you, particularly because you're in business for yourself, you're waking up on edge. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, are the highest first thing in the morning. And so when you wake up and you're already on edge, feeling like, oh my God, how am I going to get through the day? How am I going to pay my bills? You're rattled, you're thinking, you're worried, your cortisol levels are high. That means your, oh shit, nervous system, your alarm system is already ringing. So we got to flip the switch and turn off the alarm before you start your day so that your brain can focus and work for you. So the way you're going to do this, I call this high-fiving your heart. We're going to press in the center of your body, and that's going to kind of right by your heart, it's going to press on your vagus nerve. That's where the on-off switch is. And I'm going to teach you to manually flip the switch and to turn off the alarm system and to turn on the calm, grounded, creative nervous system that's going to help you get back into a state of flow and help you be more strategic because right now is the most extraordinary moment in time for you as a business owner, I believe, and for a creator. So as you're pressing right here, you're just going to take a deep breath. Go ahead. And now I want you to say these 3 sentences. I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm safe.
I'm safe.
I'm loved.
I'm loved.
That's it. And most mornings, I need to do it about 23 times. No, I'm serious. Like what
I know, but
happens
I love that about you though. Like you're like 23 times. Like no exact like
well, you know when it's
I know.
when you can stop because you actually have a sensation of the
Yeah,
rattle
down-regulation. Yeah.
settling and you come back into your body. And I didn't realize until I learned how to turn off the alarm and turn on that cool rested state that my default for as long as I can remember, Chase, has been alarm mode. That I have been running so fast, mostly away from things, that I did not comprehend just how dysregulated my nervous system was. And, I think it's really challenging for creatives like you and me and everybody listening. And even if you're a small business owner and you don't consider yourself a creative and an artist, your business is your art.
For
And
sure.
as a, small business owner, you're creating something. I didn't like slowing down is terrifying when you're creative because there can be this manic, stressed out energy that's part of the creative process. And so it was very foreign to me during the pandemic to not be able to run somewhere. I mean, I literally could not go to get a cup of coffee or go to catch a flight or run to Target to run an errand, which I didn't realize was how I was kind of managing all of this dysregulated kind of survival mode energy. But learning how to stand in that frenzy, put my hands on my heart, and bring myself back into my body so that I could leverage the intense and incredible power of my brain and be strategic instead of reactive and be confident instead of like chaotic. It's been life changing. And so I believe that, look, will putting your hands on your heart take away your problems? No, it won't change the circumstances you're dealing with. But what it does is it changes you from the inside out and changes your ability to be calm and to be confident and to be clear minded and intentional about how you face those things. And that changes everything.
Everything, because shit happens. Shit's going to happen. And it's not that we aim to prevent things from happening, but we take control of our response to those things, right? Whether this
Hmm.
is stoicism or neurology or psychology, all of those things align to say that how we respond is the measure of greatness, right? That is how we become our best self.
Or
And this
sanity.
is,
I mean, I can give
yeah.
you an example, Chase. We've been wrapping up kind of like this big like book tour to the extent you can do one in these times. And I went over to London and we had an incredible, tour over in London. And I took my daughter with me and it was time to come home. And the regulations for getting any kind of international travel, at least right now, at the time that we are filming this, are mind blowingly complicated. And they're changing in real time. And some involve printouts and others involve apps. And so I found myself at 4:30 in the morning at the airport 2 days ago with my daughter, and we didn't have the right paperwork. And as soon as we learned we don't have the right paperwork, as soon as you start to entertain, I'm not getting out of this country. As soon as you learn that, oh my God, am I going to have to quarantine here for 14 days? Then can I get back in the country? Oh my, and that whole thing happens when you allow the stress of your life or the stress of a moment or the uncertainty of something or the fear that you feel to all of a sudden surge through your body, you will not be able to solve the problems you're facing. And so literally at 4:30 in the morning at Heathrow, I got my hands on my heart as I'm huffing and puffing because I didn't download the app and I can't get back home and I don't want to stay here for another 14 days. And my daughter started, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. My daughter's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay." And I bring myself back into my body. And then I start saying, "What if it all works out? What if everything's okay? What if I figure this out?" And I use the tools to come back into the moment, Chase, so that I can focus on what I need to do. And I'm telling you, if you're a small business owner and you are rattled and you are living with sustained stress, it's hand to hand combat with yourself in order to fight against the way that your body, your nervous system, your emotions can hijack you. And you can get control. And the more you use the tools that we're going to talk about, the faster and better you'll become at it.
I think that, there's first of all, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote there. But it's also like we can relate. Everyone who's listening can relate, right? And this system was designed to be very effective at protecting us from saber-toothed tigers, right? It helped us grow and evolve. And the difference between running from a saber-toothed tiger 10,000 years ago and trying to find out how to catch a flight when you're running a business, your daughter has to get back to school, the list of things that are going wrong in that moment, is that we used to have to run from a saber-toothed tiger once in a while. And the part and parcel of an unintentional modern life is that if you do not control your nervous system's response to all these stimulus, you are going to be perpetually living in that state, which is a state that we were not designed to live in. So this is my debt of gratitude, my saying, you prefaced all this with, this is going to be mind-blowingly simple, but so is E equals MC squared, right? It's the most simple things that can describe very complex, or can be the solution to very complex problems. That's
Yeah.
what I found so beautiful in the high five habit. So congrats for harnessing it. Obviously, that's one of the reasons it was an instant New York Times bestseller. But let's unpack it another layer. We talked about an onion, and you've got science that backs you up. This is not a mantra. You were clear that mantras without some science you were skeptical of. But help me understand how you arrived here, and maybe
You mean
even
with the
what
high
made
five habit?
what made you go looking? Was it
Oh
your own
my god.
life?
Okay, so I didn't even go looking. So, because look, the last time that we were together, I had just self-published the 5-second rule. The Creative Live
Absolutely
course was,
blowing up. By
yeah,
the way, that was blowing up in the best way.
but the first course I had ever done was with you guys,
Mhm.
and that was 4 years ago. And like most creatives, I then hit this incredible block, and I couldn't think of an idea, and I didn't know what to write. And everything that I thought of just seemed stupid or paled in comparison or just didn't feel right. And believe me, I tried. I, you know, tried to write a book about, the life is like a road trip. That was stupid. Then I, tried to write a book about 5 decisions. That was like a kitchen soup book. That one was dumb. I tried to write a book about something else. It was like so pathetic. Like that one ended up in the garbage can. So the whole time I'm like, oh, I'm a one hit wonder. Oh, I got lucky. Oh, there's never going to be another idea. I was so filled with writer's block and shitty ideas that I got fired by my publisher that I ended up going with because I was a year late on delivering an idea. And so that's a fun moment as a creative when your publisher says, under the contract, we have the right to cancel this. And you're like, yep, you do. And by the way, can we have the advance back? Money I've already spent because, we don't have any confidence in you. And so that's where I was as the pandemic hit. 4 years of
Wow.
shitty ideas and nothing, and about 700 pieces of paper that hit the circular file under my desk, and a publisher that fired me. And
Wow.
then the pandemic hits. I need to give money back that I've already spent. My talk show, which was a dream job, gets canceled with 5 minutes notice, which because they find COVID-19 at the CBS Broadcast Center. And so I then lose my dream job. And the life turns upside down for all of us. And with that as the backdrop, it was April of 2020. And at this moment, I'm basically have not changed out of my pajamas in 3 weeks. And we're eating breakfast for dinner. And I'm sleeping on the couch next to the dog where I've been drinking Bloody Marys since about 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like functioning really well at this point. And I wake up one morning and I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. And you don't even need a pandemic or to get fired from your job or to be struggling financially to understand what that feels like. Everybody feels that at some point, like
Yeah.
that you just can't face the demands of your life and business, that you would just kill to have somebody else take all this responsibility off your plate. You just need a break from your life. And that's what I felt like. And I was standing in my bathroom and I was brushing my teeth And it was in that moment that I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And my first thought was not, God, I feel so bad for you. It was, oh, you look like hell. And that was this moment where the beatdown starts. And this is a thing that I want to blow wide open, because it wasn't until I had this epiphany this morning in April of 2020 that every one of us has this dirty little thing that's hidden inside your morning routine. And I believe that it is the source of almost all the problems you face. And the thing that's hidden in your morning routine is a habit of rejecting yourself. And it's really subtle, but then when you see it, you're like, oh my God, not only is this habit there in the morning and it's how I start my morning, but then I carry it through my whole day. And so as you stand in front of the mirror every morning in the bathroom, I've been researching this for a year. We've had 100 and I think 42,000 people go through a 5-day challenge online from 91 countries in a matter of 33 days. I've done the research. Every single human being on the planet does one of two things when they look in the mirror in the morning. Either they can't look at themselves in the mirror, Chase, because they are disgusted or disappointed by where they are in life. Not looking at yourself in the mirror is a habit of rejecting yourself, by the way. Or you look in the mirror and you focus on what you don't like and what you need to fix. That's a habit of rejecting yourself. And so that morning, brushing my teeth is part of my morning routine. And there I go. I start looking in the mirror and I start focusing on the things that need to be fixed. You look like hell. Look at the dark circles under your eyes, a saggy neck, one boob's hanging lower. Then my mind's like not thinking about all the things that I need to do that I'm positive about, but like, why'd you get up so late? And you got 8 minutes to get to the Zoom call and you didn't fucking text Chase back. And boom, the beatdown starts like boom, 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 like the sledgehammer. And I don't know what came over me. This is literally a story just like the 5-second rule. I wish it would have been as easy to say, oh, I need to write another book. I need a 5 in the title. Let's call it the high 5 habit. Let's figure out what like that would have been amazing. That's not my creative process. My creative process is Mel Robbins needs to dig a hole or fall into one. And then she needs to realize nobody's coming to save her ass. So she's got to build a ladder. And so here I am in a hole emotionally, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm beating myself up. And as cheesy as it sounds, that morning standing there in my underwear, I just instinctively high-fived the woman I saw in the mirror because she looked like she needed it. And as my hand hit the mirror, I laughed. I laughed because it's so cheesy and corny. I'm like, oh my God. And then here's the thing though. I immediately felt something shift inside me. I immediately felt the energy change. I went from this woe is me, beat down, you're a loser, you're fucked today kind of energy to not even thinking words, but feeling an energy that I would describe that's sort of like, oh, come on, it's not that bad. You got a roof over your head, like sort of like that tough parent kind of thing. And I left the bathroom. That's what happened. That was day one. So I'm not at the point where I'm like, okay, I got a book here. That's not what happened. But the second morning is when the profound nature of this started to unfold. So I wake up and like you, I still use the 5-second rule because I hate getting out of bed. 5, 4, 3,
It
2,
was so
1.
cold. It was so cold in my bedroom this morning. I slept with the window open. It got into 30 degrees, and I'm like, oh, I could snooze forever. Anyway,
Correct.
sorry.
Correct. I can relate to that. And so I get up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I start walking to the bathroom, and I realize, Chase, that I'm feeling something I've never felt in my adult life. And it's this. I'm not even in the bathroom yet, and I'm already having this sort of realization. You know, when you're about to meet somebody that you really just like for a cup of coffee, and you're about to walk into, like a cafe or something, what is it that you feel in your body when you're about to see someone you like?
It's some fluttering. It's like some energy. There's a little hiccup or a giddy up in your step. There's
Yeah.
all these, I don't know, little zing of emotion and joy.
Yeah, exactly. I realized that I was feeling that about seeing myself. Now, I had never felt that before. I'd certainly felt excited about seeing an outfit or a haircut. But the human being, Mel Robbins? Excited to see her? What? And as I rounded the corner, kind of the profound nature of this started to hit me. And as I walked into the bathroom and I kind of step in and the woman in the mirror steps in with me, I have this second realization, holy shit, there are two people in this bathroom. There was something about the high five the morning before that broke this seal and made me realize that that's not my reflection, that that's a person who needs me. She is trying so hard. She is doing the best she can. She feels so beaten down. She's tired of the negativity. She's tired of you picking her apart, and she needs you to be more supportive. And I kind of stood there for a minute because I'd never had this sort of experience with myself. It's like almost like a moment of objectivity with yourself. And, if you allow yourself to look past the body and the face, you will see your soul, your spirit, your humanity. It's an entirely different way to relate to yourself. And, I just kind of stood there for a minute and I thought to myself, what does she need from me today? And as I thought about it, and the answer kind of that second morning was like, could you have a little fucking fun? Like, this has been like, just Jesus, it's kind of like that sort of thing. I kind of laugh again. And so I raise my hand and I go to high five. And that was sort of what sealed the deal for me. And so I added it into my morning routine. After I brush my teeth, I just take a minute. I look in the mirror. I don't even say anything. And I go to high five myself. And I started to notice every single morning I did it, I felt better. Every single morning I did it, I felt a little bit more optimistic. Every single morning I did it, I felt more energized. And it was about a month of doing it that I posted a photo in my story. It doesn't even say, try this. This is what I'm doing. It literally is just me high-fiving myself in the mirror. And that was all it took. Within an hour, more than 100 people around the world had posted photos of themselves doing it, some with their kids, all different ages, professions, backgrounds. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I'm not the only one who needs a little encouragement right now. Maybe this high five ain't so cheesy after all. And so I took on a year-long research project, which involved not only reaching out to all these people around the world and kind of doing that sort of real person type of research, but also talking to some of the leading experts in neuroscience and habits. And the research is freaking jaw-dropping. So just shorthand very quickly, I'm on a mission to get everybody on the planet to start their day by high-fiving the human being they see in the mirror. And the reason why I want people to do this is because the science is just absolutely a game changer. And there's a couple reasons why this is so important, particularly for those of us that are in business for ourselves, those of us that are putting creative ideas out there. Number one, when you go to high five the mirror, your brain recognizes what a high five is. And this is where all the power of this habit comes from. You're not actually having to learn anything new. The coolest part about this habit is all the programming, the neuro association of a high five is already in your brain and your nervous system. And so we are just going to aim all of that positive, energizing, celebratory programming back at you instead of at everybody else. And we're just tapping into something that's already in there and giving you the benefit of it. And you don't have to do anything other than raise your hand and high five the person. So when you go to raise your hand, the act of raising your hand, you can stand there in your underwear and think, Chase has lost his damn mind and Mel Robbins is now out of her mind too. This is the dumbest thing. I cannot believe, like, you can literally think all that. But the second you go to raise your hand, as you get closer to the mirror, all the criticism goes silent because the hand gesture is a trigger that causes your brain to grab the programming associated with the high five that's in your brain. So when you high five somebody, Chase, what's the high five communicate to somebody?
It's affection, connection, recognition, acknowledgement.
I believe in you. I see you. I celebrate you. If you do it with a teammate who just screwed up, it's like, shake it off, keep going. It's all those things. It's only ever been those things. You've never high-fived somebody and thought, I hate you. You suck. I hope you lose. You've never done it. It's why it's neurologically impossible to criticize yourself as you're high-fiving yourself because your brain isn't wired to do it. And so go ahead. I can see the
No,
wheels
no,
turning.
keep going. You're on a roll.
So as you go to high-five yourself and the critic silences, all that programming, I believe in you, I see you, I celebrate you, keep going, marries with your reflection. As you get close to the mirror, your brain gives you a drip of dopamine. That's why everybody laughs. That's also why people will cry when they do it. It's why your mood boosts a little bit. It's why you feel a little bit more intentional once you finish it. The other thing that happens is your nervous system. We've talked about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, the kind of fight or flight, the kind of more energized, grounded nervous system in the parasympathetic. Well, your nervous system is wired for celebration instinctively. When you cross a finish line, everybody raises their hands. When your favorite team scores, everybody raises their hands. When you shout surprise at a birthday party, everyone raises their hands. When you wave hello, you raise your hands. When you hug somebody, you raise your hands. When you high five yourself, you raise your hand. So in the act itself, it flips on the celebratory energy in your nervous system. And this is just the beginning of what starts to happen. There's all this research that scientists have done. We've just packed the book with all of these studies about motivation, inspiration, winning, and a high five is unbelievably well documented as the most motivating source, even more so than any kind of verbal encouragement that you can give, because a high five makes you feel like you're in partnership, that you're gotten, that you're recognized, that you're celebrated. That's the most powerful force in the world. And what I'm here to tell you, and this is what I have discovered now that I've been starting my day every morning, I get the gunk out of my mouth so I don't spread bad breath everywhere. Then I get the gunk out of my mind, body, and spirit so that literally you can clear generational shit out of your body by high-fiving yourself in the mirror. Because what's happening is you are validating yourself. You are accepting yourself. You are encouraging yourself with that simple gesture. And what I've found, there's three major insights that I've gotten, Chase, from doing this. One is that I, like so many business owners and so many creatives, I had married achievement with self-worth. As long as I'm creating something, as long as I'm achieving something, then I deserve praise, or I am worthy, or I'm validated, which puts you on a path of always chasing things and always feeling like it's never enough because your self-worth and your lovability is located outside of you. When you start your day every day by validating exactly where you are. I didn't go to the gym yesterday, still high-fiving myself. Didn't get through my to-do list, still high-fiving myself. You're demonstrating that you're worthy as you are, and that changes everything. The other thing that profoundly changed for me is, if you're insecure, you doubt yourself, or you struggle with people pleasing or an imposter syndrome, and I think most Creatives, we do. What's incredible is that when you add this habit and your brain watches you celebrating and supporting yourself every day, you learn to like yourself. And when you like yourself, something amazing happens. You'll stop worrying so much about what other people think because so much of your validation seeking comes from the fact that every morning in the mirror you reject yourself. So, of course, you're going outside to try to build yourself back up. If you can start your day by showing that you like yourself and accept yourself, yeah, if other people don't like you, it stings, but it won't change the fact that you like yourself. And the third thing that I learned, and I think this is the most profound one, is when I first started doing this chase, my husband, Chris, we've been married for 25 years. I said to him, I said, because one of the things that has been happening in my life, since I last saw you, is that my husband has come to terms with the fact that he's been struggling with depression for a long time. And I said to him at one point, as I've been high fiving myself, I turned to him, he's at the sink next to me, and I'm like, I really think this high five thing, it could help you. I really, I think it'd be really good for you and depression. And he looks at me and he's like, I am not, that is the stupidest thing I am not doing your high five thing. That's fine for you. And I'm like, look, if you don't want to do it for yourself, that's fine. But would you do it for me? I mean, I'm like excited about this thing. I'm about to start like, could you just fucking do it for me? So I bully him into it, right? Just 5 fucking days, just do it for me. See if it makes a difference. So after he had high-fived himself 5 days in a row, I talked to him about it, and what he shared is profound, and I think it's incredibly relatable. When I said to him, "I want you to start high-fiving yourself," the reason why Chris thought it was stupid is because ever since that restaurant business failed, and he got out of it in 2014, for the past 7 years, when he looks in the mirror, he sees a man who failed. He sees a person that's not been a good father or a good husband because he has not been able to provide financially for them. He has judged himself. He has hated himself. And the fact that I don't see that doesn't make a dent in what he sees. I've been standing next to this man at the sink next to him for 7 years. I had no idea how dark his mind had become. And he said to me, I thought that high fiving myself is stupid because don't you, Joe, always high five a winner? And if I think I'm a loser and a failure, why on earth would I ever high five myself? And based on our research, that's most people's experience. That as you stand in the bathroom, you see what you're disappointed in, you see the regrets, and you withhold the very thing that you need, which is support and acceptance and compassion. And so the high five in the mirror every morning isn't, yeah, I'm winning at life. That's not what it is. It's, I see you. I know that this is hard and I still love you and you deserve to be happy and keep going. That's what it becomes. It becomes a gateway to healing, to forgiveness, to all the things that we need.
So incredibly profound. And as I mentioned earlier, my E equals MC squared comment, that's part of what I found so beautiful about the book, your research, and of course, you layer in these personal, very personal and vulnerable, relatable experiences. And it's real. It's real. The science is clear. And most people, you mentioned earlier, this desire for external validation that culturally from our parents, our teachers, our coaches, all of the people, our career counselors, that is uh, for, I was going to say better or worse, but for worse, that is a largely culturally ingrained um, part of our culture. And yet the science is clear. If you wait for external validation in order to have a good attitude, you are going to constantly be chasing this external validation versus having a good attitude that can create the feelings that you seek, this connection. And most importantly, as you mentioned, the connection, respect, love, and the connection with yourself.
Yeah.
So damn, thank you again for for this, uncovering, the uh somehow some of the most simple things in life can be the most profound. So you walked us through the experience, how
Mhm.
you got to that place where you needed that from yourself. You shared this experience with your husband, and I think we've convinced the people who are watching, listening to try it. You said 5 days.
Yep.
What's what's the minimum viable dose? What do you think? Is it 5 days? Is it a week?
I personally think everyone should do it for the rest of their lives every morning because I want you to break the habit of self rejection and replace it with a habit of self acceptance and self compassion and self respect and self validation. And what I love about it is, again, it takes, a couple seconds. And I love that it's a physical action because your brain's always watching.
Yeah,
And,
you're
we
wiring.
talked,
Yeah.
yeah, you're wiring. And the other piece that I love about this is that these concepts of self-worth and self-validation and self-acceptance and self-kindness and self-respect, they're kind of these big topics. And we all know that that's what we need to be doing, but we don't know how. And so what I love about this is it's a demonstration of those things and your brain's watching. So as you're rewiring, your brain's starting to go, oh, wait a minute, I'm a person that respects myself. Oh, wait a minute, I'm a person that accepts myself. Oh, wait a minute. And it has this incredible ricochet effect because it sticks with you, again, because of the neuroassociation that's already there. So, I think it's a minimum of 5 days. And the reason why I say 5 days is because if you grew up in a culture where nobody high fived you, the neural association is still there because you've seen it in sport online. You've seen viral videos of people doing it online. And so you still have the positive association. But the main reason why I want you to do it for 5 days is because for the majority of people, they resist it immediately because of the amount of judgment about your past and about where you are. And so it's going to take a couple days of doing it and being like, yeah, I don't feel anything, to then doing it again and being like, oh, shit, okay, that's weird. And so just give it 5 lousy days and you will literally have the most profound breakthrough, both positive and negative. Negative being, I can't believe how shitty I've been to myself for so long. And I just I have been withholding a fucking high five. Like, that's how bad I've been, to the profound breakthrough of truly feeling, Chase, that you're coming home to yourself because you were not wired hating yourself. Life taught you how to do that. You came into this world loving the sight of yourself, cheering for yourself, celebrating yourself. And so it's actually bringing you back to your true nature.
Which there's something like that's the part that in my participation in a lot of your work online and your books is that these are so foundational. The concept of, finding gratitude that you have a body and that body can carry you around in the world. And this recognition is so fundamental that we have forgotten to how to manage it. And there's even worse, an almost borderline toxic visualization or manifestation or description of what this is. It equals a spa day. Like loving yourself, self-care is like, I'm going to the spa. So if you don't go to the spa, you can't afford to go to the spa. Or I don't know anyone who goes to the spa every day. It's almost impossible. It like creates this and actually a gap between your ability to touch this judgment-free zone of yourself, this more importantly, judgment-free and actual acceptance of yourself versus the dynamic that you've set. set up here. So I think
Well,
it's
I can give you
true
another
genius.
example that's really relatable. Um, because you talked about judgment-free zone. I think we just live in the judgment zone as a default. And
Yeah.
here's a really quick example. And this is so stupid. And this happened this morning. I was talking to my mom. I'm close with my parents. I grew up in Michigan. My husband and I, for a couple decades, have lived outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I hate that I live away from my parents, but I'm not moving back home to a tiny town of 2,000 people in Western Michigan. I don't want to live there, but I hate that I don't live near my parents. By the way, my parents aren't moving near me either. So we're kind of in this standoff. So my mom was talking, and you and I are talking around the time of the holidays, and she mentioned the fact that my brother and his wife, who I love, are driving down to Florida to be with my parents for Thanksgiving week. And I felt this like, ugh, in my heart. And not guilt, but just like, I wish we were all going. And we're not. We're going to be up here in Boston. Our kids are flying home from college. They want to see their friends. This is the period of life that we're in. But I was like, ugh. And then I went down the road of, oh my God, but they're getting old. How many more Thanksgivings do you have with them? And I start the beat down. And I paused and I said to myself, why are you doing that to yourself? You have a beautiful relationship with your parents. You have a beautiful life. You just had a beautiful conversation with your mom. You are so used to beating yourself up and finding the negative that you tilt there when you're not paying attention. That's how fast it can happen. And so I caught it and I flipped my attitude, which is like giving yourself a mental high five. When in sport, if you see somebody going down and you high five them, you bring their attitude back up. We so focus, and this is the other thing that I've noticed, that in business, I would literally focus on the one thing that wasn't working instead of the 100 things that were going right. And so this is a daily practice of catching where you're drifting to and pulling yourself into a lane of kindness and into a lane of celebration, which profoundly changes your experience of life itself.
So many people that I know, we're biologically wired for a negativity bias, right? That's part of a survival mechanism that I talk about this as the brain rather than your brain because it's an organ. Its job is to keep you alive, not happy. And turns out we've done a pretty good job with that whole alive thing because people are living to be 80 something years old. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. And what we ought to be doing is learning how to manage the thing between our ears and the thing between our ribs. And this is probably the most practical, simple, and approachable vector for that I've experienced. So again, I don't want to blow smoke, but I think it's fascinating. And as you put together this self gratitude, appreciation, recognition with your earlier work around getting your ass into gear, whether you like it or not, um, how to manage this thing between our ears. It seems like that's it's become your occupation and your focus, and you're good at it. And
Thank
so it
you.
makes me want to ask you, first of all, we should pause and celebrate you. Thank you for that. Those two pieces of work, game changing. And I want to ask you a question since you've demonstrated that you have uh, a mastery over managing the brain and the heart. Most people who, when I ask if money could be no object, if you could do whatever activity you want and have the life of your dreams, what would that activity be? What would you do for your time? How would you spend your time on this planet? I am continually shocked that most people are unable to immediately answer that question. There is a
Mm.
long, somewhat frightened expression, a long time a period of time goes by, and then they look at me and they say, "Huh, I haven't really thought of that," or "Yeah, it couldn't be possible," or "This is just some sort of a fictional activity that sure I'll try and humor you, Chase." But my question for you then is, if I believe that most people do not know what of all of the things that they could be doing in this one precious world with their life, they don't know what to do. Clearly, you have, through by hook or by crook, by mistake, by you've chronicled the different careers that you've had, and you in this show alone, you've been incredibly vulnerable. Talked about how you're struggling to follow your own damn advice, and yet you've managed to achieve greatness. You've managed to navigate what I think is the most difficult question: is to how can I live the life of my dreams. You just talked about a moment ago, having a beautiful life, having a great relationship with your parents. Now, most people struggle with this. How have you nailed it? What advice would you give? Because most people who are listening right now, if I could snap my fingers and give them any life, they wouldn't know what life to choose for themselves.
Hmm.
You
Well,
have
I
you have
think for a
managed
lo
incredibly in this.
well,
What would you say to these
thank
people?
you. Thank you. So what I would say is for the majority of my life, felt the exact same way, either because I didn't believe it was possible or I just was so in survival mode and out of touch with myself that I had no capacity to answer that question authentically because I was not actually in relationship with myself. I was just surviving life. And to be able to answer that question authentically, you do need to be connected to yourself and know yourself. And that's harder than you realize. Um, Before I kind of give you the answer, I think I do have to share one thing, which is I think one of the reasons why I've stumbled into these tools is because for way too long, I was really fucked up. I lived for way too long in a dysregulated, anxious, self loathing state. I was really miserable for way too long. And, on the outside, people that knew me would say I was really positive and really competitive and really confident. And the truth is, inside, because I was so on edge and so full of anxiety and so insecure, and also dealing with untreated childhood trauma, I didn't know any of the things that I know now. That once I started healing and once I cracked this shell and a little light got in and I got a taste of what it felt like to feel grounded in your body and not on edge, to feel comfortable in your own skin, to feel okay with exactly the person I am and exactly the person that I'm not. Once I got a taste of what it felt like to be connected to myself and to feel present, I am so aware when I'm not in that state. And so these simple tools that I've created, whether it's the 5-second rule or now the high five habit or high fiving your heart or mindset tricks like simply saying, what if it all works out when I start worrying? Or any of the little tools, do it anyway, that flip me from a on edge, stressed out, oh fuck state into, okay, I can face this. Or a negative, anxiety ridden, self loathing. Why don't I live near my parents? Shit, I should. They're going to die and then I'm going to regret. Flip it. Like I literally spent too many decades hating myself, being disassociated, dysregulated, anxiety ridden, questioning that I don't want to waste any more of my life feeling that way. And so I think that part of my genius, if you will, of coming up with these simple things that encapsulate decades of research that help people take control and transform things through physical action or through mindset changes, they come to me because of how miserable it's been to be in this body and in this mind. And it is like hand to hand combat with myself. And so I also want people to know that even though I have these tools, I still get hit with stuff that sends me back into stress mode or sends my mind into like a dark mode. And that's normal. It's okay. But there are simple things you can do to flip the switch and take control again. So that's number one. The second thing is that it's related, and that is that for me, discovering what's meant for you next is an energy thing. And so I just pay attention to what I'm drawn toward. The things that are meant for you have an energetic match for you. And the things that aren't meant for you have an energetic like rejection. And the way that I read things is that if the energy around something, whether it's a person or it is an opportunity or it is anything in business, is expansive, might be scary, might be intense, but if it's expansive, it feels like there's growth there, I lean towards it. If the energy around something feels very depleting or shrinking or constrictive, I step away from it. And so I have, for the last decade, I have leaned toward things that feel like growth. I have said no to things that start to make me feel constricted. And the other thing that has helped me a lot, so that helps me make decisions too about whether or not I'm going to take funding or whether or not I'm going to, like right now, for example, I'm my biggest goal for the year 2022 is to launch a podcast of my own. And the thing I'm making a decision around right now is, do I just do it all on my own? And do I hold the whole thing? And do I bring the advertising in house and just do whatever the fuck I want? Or do I partner with somebody but still own everything? And I don't know the answer yet, but I think it's going to be do it on my own. And I can see that there's this history of every time that I have something in business that doesn't work, I knew instinctively that it was a bad idea because it felt like there was a part of me that was going to be constrained or restricted. And so that's an example of how I'm using this sort of, is it expansive? Is it depleting? Is it energizing? Is it like that sort of feel to make the decision that's going to be right for me? And then the second thing that has helped me tremendously is to understand the difference between passion and purpose. And in my mind, passion is for you. Passion is anything that brings you energy. If you feel stuck in your life, before you end that marriage or quit that job, try just bringing some things into your life that make you feel energized, whether that's taking an online class or taking on a new hobby or learning something because you've probably just stopped growing. When I understood that passion and feeling alive and energized is simply about making it a priority to do things that make you feel that way, I brought more passion into my day to day life and work. Whereas purpose is something that you're giving to the world. And purpose might not have anything to do with what actually brings you energy. Purpose is the gift that you give to the world. And for those of us in business for ourselves and those of us that are artists, your story and the thing you're creating is your purpose because it's what you're giving to the world.
Mm. This may be perceived as a trick question. I think that was a very helpful answer. That was all about how do we do this for ourselves? I think it's the biggest problem, to be clear, which is why I started there. But let's do one step removed, which is how can we support others in doing this? Specifically, the conundrum I'm going to place at your feet now is you have some lovely children and they are growing up and they are becoming their own little humans out in the world doing cool human shit. Are you always supportive of the things that they want to do? How do you do that? And by just to be clear, I'm hoping that this is a model. We've just heard for the past hour how we can take care of ourselves. It also doesn't hurt to be able to be supportive for those that are in our circle, whether they're spouses,
Mhm.
kids, parents. We talked about
Mhm.
that earlier. Before we started recording, we were swapping parent stories. And I'm just curious, how has it been to use the lens that you've developed on yourself? How do you direct that to your kids?
There's a couple rules that I follow. And before I share kind of my rules, I'll just give you the biggest framework. I feel like, and thankfully, Chris and I are very aligned on this, that our job as parents is to help our kids become themselves. And that can be a really challenging thing to do when your kids are nothing like you. And so, one big rule is you got to show, not tell. And so, if you expect your kids to have a certain philosophy about life or to have a certain type of work ethic or to treat other people with kindness or to be kind to themselves, you got to show them what that looks like. You can't just tell them what it looks like. The second thing is that I think that one of the most important skills that your kids need that a lot of us don't know how to teach is how to make a decision for themselves. And so many of us as parents, I made some major mistakes when I was younger and when I was, still very dysregulated. When your kids are anxious or your kids are struggling, it's just natural to want to swoop in and save them and to make the decision for them. And there are going to be times when it's dangerous or destructive or there's a safety issue. You got to make the decision for your kids then. But really, what your kids need is they need your help in having a framework for how you make a decision, how you think through consequences, how you think through the way that something may impact a friendship or a relationship or a grade at school. And it's only through experiencing the consequences of their own bad decisions that your kids learn what they care about. And so I think that, one of the tools that we developed over time that's been super helpful is that when our kids come to us with a problem, I always say this sentence, and it's saved me as a parent. I say, "Do you want my help or do you just want me to listen?" And 9 times out of 10, they just want me to listen. And I have also found that I instinctually just want to solve their problems. And so asking questions instead of telling them what to do. So, what do you think you should do? What do you think would happen if you do that? What are you worried would happen? And oftentimes my kids will say, "Well, what do you think I should do?" And I'll be like, "Well, first I want to hear what you think you should do." And so putting it back on them, teaching them how to think for themselves. Super, super important. I made this mistake with our kids, Chase. The second that they had any kind of anxiety, I don't want to sleep in my room. I don't want to go to this party because I might throw up. I don't want to go take this test. I would swoop in and be like, okay, okay, don't worry. You don't have to go. You can do a sleep under, not a sleep. You can sleep on the floor in my room. What I've learned from one of the leading experts on childhood anxiety is that when you, as a parent, rescue your kids from the things they're worried about, you're doing a couple things. Number one, you're subconsciously telling them, "You're right. I don't think you can handle it either." And the second thing that you're doing, because anxiety, when it first starts, it's not a disease like depression, it's a freaking coping mechanism for uncertainty. The more you rescue your kids, the more they develop anxiety as a strategy to deal with uncertainty. You make it stronger instead of helping them. You're actually hurting the situation. So, as hard as it is to march your kid back up to their bedroom and say, "I'm sorry, you're not going to sleep on the floor again tonight. I believe in your ability to stay in your bed, and I'm going to stand out here for 10 minutes. And if you get scared, yes, you can come down. But guess what? I'm going to walk you right back up because you know what? I believe in your ability to face this. You can do this kind of thing, honey." And so, again, what do you think you need? What if you feel what do you think you should do? What do you think might help? You're teaching them the skills they need as an adult. So those are some things that have happened. And, we have a couple kids that are super creative. We have a daughter who's at USC in the Thornton School of Music in this wildly competitive pop music major program as a singer-songwriter. And it was so hard for the first 2 years to watch her get into this program that was like winning American Idol, dream come true, working with Grammy. Like, this is her dream. And to watch her spend the first 2 years being a college student going to frats and squandering the opportunity. And there was nothing that I could do as a parent to change that. And my biggest fear was, of course, something happening to her, but my biggest fear is, holy shit, I can see this playing out. She's going to be a 30-year-old adult that spends her life regretting the fact that she squandered that opportunity. And that makes me want to swoop in, and that makes me want to go, "Are you practicing?" And that makes me, "Did you write any song?" And that would backfire. I have got to let her walk her own path. If she ends up being an adult that regrets how she spent her childhood years, maybe that's the fuel she needed as an artist. But, I can ask her, and I do, "Are you happy with it? How do you think you're doing? What do you think you're struggling with?" And that sort of opens up things. And, I'm happy to report that I think the pandemic was this incredible gift in her life, because having that program canceled for a year and having it completely taken away was the wake up call that I've been fearing she would get as a 30-year-old. And now, every time I call her, she's in the practice room. Every time I call, like, she's just, and so you got to trust that they're going to figure it out. You really have to.
I think that we just use that through the lens of your kids, but I think that's true as a leader in an organization. I think that's true as a friend, as a peer, as a mentor, as a mentee. Like, there's a lot of this dynamic that us learning how to help ourselves first and put our own oxygen mask on before helping others is obviously critical. But the ability, if you do make some progress along that personal journey, the ability to be there for one another is super important. I want to say thank you, Mel. Congrats on the book. In addition to, what was it? I think you've got 4 number 1 bestsellers on Audible. Every time I turn around, you got another one of those things. So keep churning out the hits, as you may say to your daughter at some point. But this most recent work, truly profound, beautiful in its simplicity and its power. It's been great to reconnect after too long. It's been fun to follow you on your adventures in social. What's, if you wanted to steer some people towards some ways to interact with your work out there on the worldwide universe, where would you steer them, outside of the book and the things we've talked about on the show?
Just go to social media. The other thing that you could do, that's free. We put out just a tremendous amount of content every single day that's free. I'm actually in the middle of reading The High Five Habit for free every day, cover to cover, online, because I know so many people are hurting, and I don't want these tools to only be for people who can afford a book. Also, we have a free newsletter that is read by almost 1 million people every other week when I get it out. And there's just a lot that we're putting out there to support you. So if you just sign up for the newsletter at melrobbins.com or follow us on social media, you'll have all kinds of support that you need.
Awesome. Congrats again. Thank you for being so honest and vulnerable, and just it's authentic as hell. It's just a treat in this world where everyone's so scheduled and predictable and calculated, to have someone like yourself to just take us on the ride that we need. Thank you so much for being on the show. Congratulations, and this community will show up for you. So let's go support Mel. Her newsletter is extraordinary. Obviously, we've already talked you into buying the book, so that's a done deal. But thanks again, Mel. And again,
Hey,
I
you're
will
so awesome.
Also, how to break the habit of self-doubt and build real confidence is Mel's class on Creative Live. 155,221 students. Thank you so much, Mel. Signing off until next time, I bid you all out there on the internet, I bid you all adieu.